What's up, guys? Oh, you first?
Michael, I'm sure this has been a trying and uncertain time over the past few weeks. Can you talk to us from your perspective what it has been like with the uncertainty and with this event sort of falling apart?
I think life in general is uncertain for everybody, right? Obviously for me, the last year and a half since I got the phone call in January of 2022 about The Ultimate Fighter, there was a little bit of certainty there doing The Ultimate Fighter, and then originally it was, hey, we're gonna fight in September after the show. Obviously we know how that played out. We got booked for the following June. And then, the last couple of weeks, I honestly was just living in it. Obviously press conference gets canceled. Luckily, I didn't fly over there. For anybody who wrote an article or put out misinformation that I flew over there for no reason, I was not over there. And then it was just rumors, the rumor mill, with an organization, a worldwide organization as big as the UFC. People are going to talk, people are going to speculate, and all the way up to the last, moment till I got the phone call, Conor's never pulled out of a fight. So whether it was an injury, whether it was whatever the circumstances may be, I stayed positive, I stayed training, and then got the phone call, and here I am.
When you do get that phone call, do you is it hard not to think, oh my God, it's all over? Or do you think, okay, they're going to reschedule this and we are going to get it done, and that's what the UFC does?
Yeah, throughout the entire process, obviously, I wasn't even really informed of what it was besides possibly an injury, right? Obviously, they're not allowed to tell me what the injury is, how severe it is. They have a duty to keep that stuff private. I didn't find out what the actual injury was until Conor posted it, and that's the way it should be. I don't want to know what is ailing on my opponents, and I don't want anybody to know what's ailing on me. But yeah, it's a tough phone call to get. Obviously, just put in 10 weeks of solid work away from my family. Just having the best camp of my life. But hey, this is how it goes, and this is what I signed up for. I signed up for an uncertain career path. I've had numerous opponents pull out. I've still to this day in 22 years of hand-to-hand combat, 16 years of fighting, I've never missed weight, I've never pulled out of a fight, and I should have pulled out of a couple fights in my past and taken losses because of it. So I'll hang my hat on that and control the uncontrollables and enjoy UFC 303 from the stands.
Did you meet with the UFC last night?
I did. I was with the UFC, so we're working on some things.
Related to Conor or potentially unrelated to Conor?
It's always related to Conor. People can talk about what my motivation is for waiting, what my motivation is for sitting out for as long as I have. Quite frankly, I needed a little bit of time off. I came in to the UFC hot and had some Fights of the Year candidates, Fight of the Year 2021. So it's always revolving around Conor. I've enjoyed this time doing things outside of the octagon and then just had a phenomenal camp. But my motivation has been, I signed my name on a dotted line back in January to do The Ultimate Fighter and then fight Conor McGregor. And I try to be a man of my word in every aspect of my life. So that's what my number one goal is here. Obviously, I want to fight Conor. And sources close to Conor, like yourself, I'm sure know that he's going to be ready in September, August. So we can make some things happen.
So it was a positive meeting.
It's always positive with the UFC. Even when it's negative, it's positive. I'm living an absolute dream. When I first started fighting in 2009, all I wanted to do was be here, and it's so much different here than any other organization in the entire world. And the UFC takes flack because they are at the absolute top, and there's people trying to pull them down in every single aspect of it. But these guys know how to run a business. These guys are absolute consummate professionals with huge hearts, and they're just as gutted about this fight falling through as I am, as you guys are, and that's been the sentiment of those conversations. And we'll improvise, adapt, and overcome, and we'll figure out what's next very soon.
Well, what was your reaction when the injury was revealed to be, broken toes? Because I think some fans and pundits thought it'd be maybe a little more serious injury than that.
A little bit more what?
Serious.
Serious? Hey, have you ever had a broken pinky toe? Yes. You have?
Yeah.
I don't know if I have had a broken pinky toe. Now, yes, it's probably the most insignificant of toes. I would give them that, or I would give the pundits that. I think there's actually a significant portion of the populace that their pinky toes didn't even touch the ground. I think it's called hanging toe syndrome. But I think if anything, two things when it comes, or a couple of thoughts on this whole thing. Obviously, the reason I've been able to sit out for as long as I have is because I'm not just a fighter. I'm a fighter who is a businessman and an entrepreneur and a father, and I have all these things going on. And even when I'm not fighting, I have not called the UFC one time for a paycheck while I'm doing all of this stuff. I have money coming in. I'm able to support my family. And then secondly, it also is just somewhat of a feather in my cap. If Conor was lined up against a lot of other guys, he probably would have pushed through and fought. But you don't want to fight a guy like me with any kind of injuries. And he's going to come into the next fight, whenever it is, with bumps and bruises. Obviously, he was hobbling around on it and probably said, hey, man, there's no way I could fight, but I'm not fighting that guy. And we'll just figure it out as we go.
And obviously, when he put out that long statement, I think the last line was Chandler or not. I guess what went through your mind there, because like you seemed locked in for him, and all of a sudden there's that Chandler or not, I think was the big sentence that kind of fans kind of circled out.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really even think about it much. He tried to steal my tagline, though. I see what he did there with the "see you at the top." But man, I'm not really that worried about it. I mean, Conor can't, at this point, and I've said this publicly, I'm not letting him off the hook. For a while there, yeah, of course, he would love to come back and fight somebody other than Michael Chandler with what I bring to the octagon. I think there's no way he comes back to the UFC and doesn't fight me. So if I do pivot, if there are other names being thrown out, if there are huge fights that I can go ahead and pivot and take, whenever he is ready to come back, his road back to the UFC goes straight through Nashville, Tennessee, and Michael Chandler, and that's it.
Has the UFC floated other names to you, or has it just been Conor and that's it?
I mean, we've always been focused on Conor. Obviously, the UFC has a duty to look at other options. There's some great options out there, a lot of options that you guys have all heard, and I love fighting. I love fighting big names, big fights, big venues, big opportunities, and I've got a lot of options, but we're still focused on Conor.
Were any of those options seriously considered when they were presented after Conor pulled out?
Yeah, I mean, life is all about life change. Life is all about adapting with circumstances and time, right? And in that time, when I got that phone call, I'm in phenomenal shape. I just put in 10 weeks. I was away from my family. I'm not going to say it was time wasted, because it was not time wasted whatsoever. I took a shot. I signed my name on a dotted line, and I was doing my job. And the rug gets pulled out from underneath you, so you keep moving forward. But yeah, I mean, they were in that moment. I'm ready to fight. I was sitting on my couch down in Florida, and talking to management, talking to the UFC. Part of me just wants to fight. But they were considered, but here we are.
And last one from you, has a date been presented to you?
A date has not been presented to me, but we've got some dates.
Mike, over here, just quickly. You mentioned, big fights. Does any part of you want to avenge any of the losses that you've had in the UFC, like say like a Charles Oliveira, or is it just, big names and, obviously Conor at the top of the list, but, probably big names outside that. But I know some fans are wondering, like, if you would want to avenge some of those losses.
It's a good question. I mean, honestly, my motivation for a fight or a rematch with somebody would not be to avenge a loss. I look at this sport like, on any given night, any of us inside the top 5, top 10 could beat each other. Any one of us could be the world champion on any given night in our weight classes. I like that matchup with Charles. Obviously you would allude to Gaethje and Poirier and these guys who I've lost to, and I have a ton of respect for those guys. Loved competing against them the first time, and would welcome a rematch down the line, because I think everybody would be intrigued by the rivalries that we have had now. I just saw Charles, yesterday, and we, shook hands, gave a hug, and, God bless you type of situation. So, ton of respect for these guys, and we'll see.
And just last one for me, how do you deal with the negativity online? I know you're a pretty good guy with that, but it seems like people are pretty much like, obsessed with saying you dropped the ball, and there's a lot of like sort of different things online that people have said to you. How do you deal with all that?
There's moments where I'm like, yeah, okay, maybe these guys are right, but most of the time they aren't. There's just not enough actual information out there, and it's all a matter of opinion, especially in 2024 with social media. I mean, if anything, if you read between the lines of the negative comments, it's not that people Obviously, the haters are going to hate, right? But so many people just want to see me fight. You know, I take it as a compliment when people talk about the layoff, people talk about me not being inside of the octagon, because go sit in any one of these arenas on any Saturday night, any given Saturday night, whether it's a fight night or it's a pay-per-view, when I step inside the octagon, there's just a different feel, there's a different speed, there's a different amount of violence that happens. So I take it as a compliment, because I am a desired individual to watch in this sport, and I put butts in seats. So that's the way that I have taken it, and I'm running my own race with blinders on, and I'm not worried about what anybody else is thinking.
Michael in the middle. You said that, it's been floated that Conor would be ready either August or September. If it's September, then that puts it at the event at the Sphere. It's about 10 weeks from now. You've talked about having other things going on. You're a father and you're a businessman. How disruptive is it for you to spend another 10 weeks in a camp, which basically is a possibility that you may have a fight lined up?
I think it's never a disruptor. I mean, I just because I have things going on outside of the octagon doesn't mean that fighting in the UFC is my number one job and my sole purpose on this earth while I'm young enough to do it and healthy enough to do it. Sphere would be great. Like you said, it's 10 weeks away. I'm not a doctor, but I know a pinky toe doesn't take too long to heal. That would be massive. You know, it sounds to me like it's going to be a one and done type of event. Dana has touted it as the biggest event in UFC history, and it may never be done before. And if you want to do the numbers that they want to do, it seems as though this fight between myself and Conor would fit the bill. I am not the one to make those decisions, but the UFC knows I always have my work boots on, and I'm ready to go tomorrow if they want to go.
I'm not fighting you, but I did break my pinky toe twice last year.
Oh my
Just
gosh.
saying.
So how long does it take to recover?
I got on 6-inch heels.
Oh, see? We're good. We're
Just
good.
saying.
Connor's wearing slippers at Bellator fights, so he's the Bellator tick.
Mike, over here. I know you've accomplished a lot of different things across different platforms and organizations, but would a potential win against Conor McGregor be the most feel-good moment in your career, given how long this build-up has been?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, at the very onset of this process, that size of a fight with that amount of eyeballs, that's what we're striving to as mixed martial artists. We get into the sport to be the best and to be on the biggest stages under the brightest lights on the biggest platforms, and that checks all boxes. But now, especially with the storyline, with the intrigue, waiting in the wings, the build-up, the marination of this entire thing, yeah, I think it would be. It's going to be very satisfying when I make true on my word to show up whenever the next date is and knock him out. It was going to be the second round, and now he lit a fire under me. It's probably going to be the first round.
You brought up Dustin Poirier there a couple minutes ago. We may or may not know if he's going to come back after that Islam fight. So if that indeed was his last fight, what do you make of his career, and how was it like sharing the octagon?
Yeah, I mean, Dustin is, you know, I love seeing the love that he has gotten over these last couple weeks, because you don't really know what you got until it's gone, right? So in this sport, that's very fickle, and the fans are with you one week and aren't with you the next week. That man has been doing this since he was a teenager and fought all these times in the UFC, fought for world titles,